Thaumaturge has to be one of the most unique and original role-playing games I've played in a hot minute.
Either you apologize, or I'll smash your face in.
Valdush, let's go. There's no point.
Yeah, you better keep walking.
As I settled into this game's immaculate depiction of Warsaw's industrialised cobblestones and the promise of its supernatural undercurrent in this title, I couldn't help but think back to my wonderful experiences with 2007's The Witcher. Funnily enough, it was only as I was nearing the final act on this game that I realised that developer Fool's Theory has staff that worked on that seminal CD Projekt Red original and its upcoming Unreal 5 remake. So, before I jump into why this experience evoked similar feelings to that wonderful title, just know you're probably going to love the Thaumaturge if you really enjoyed that game. So here we are in glorious Warsaw 1905. Just make sure to keep your eyes to yourself and your head down. This is an unforgiving city at the best of times, and you're going to have to contend with the deceptive glares of your peers among the social elite and the occupying forces of the Romanovs. So as you navigate with your trusty leather grimoire bound at your hip, just know that there's going to be something a little spooky hovering over your shoulder that only you and those of your talents will be able to perceive.
Your anger has a different source. Go to the source.
Returning from miracle work abroad and uncovering your estranged father's untimely death in Warsaw, we learn about the clashing politics of advancing, cold modernisation and the struggle to keep culture and folklore alive in the face of dominating imperial presence. Our protagonist in this Pre-World 1 story is the silver-tongued, soft-spoken magician Victor Schultzky. He is our Thaumaturge, and similarly to The Witcher's loved white-haired monster slayer Geralt, we begin knowing almost nothing about Victor and his sardonic, dry wit and ghostly presence that haunts him. It's only as we listen to his internal monologuing and deciphering the psychic essences imbued in this challenged world and times that we are slowly enveloped by this mysterious character and the stage on which he performs his miracles. And squandering nothing in this historical time, the devs have sought fit to give us a little bit of a celebrity buddy to tag along with. It's none other than our most beloved Russian love machine. So as we tag along on Victor's journey, we're mostly going to be immersing ourselves in his dialogue, as well as the world's writing and the unsettling dilemmas that come alongside. There is combat, but it is infrequent, and fortunately scripted to only appear at particular junctions as the plot progresses. There will be no grinding here. It's a nice turn-based tactical wrinkle for those much-needed times when you need to let your eyes and emotions rest after or during a difficult investigation. As you seek the cause of your father's untimely demise, you will fall in and out, with gangs, fascist cells, prickly family, police, presence, even the Russian military, all while emotional ghosts seem to be haunting them all. These otherworldly beings that lurk in an intangible space are called salutors. They feed on and influence people's emotions and those around them. Victor's job as a Thaumaturge is to seek out these spectral beings, fighting them with his grimoire and finally liberating them to his own ends, recruiting them like Pokemon. They, in turn, will provide Victor the ability to harness the powers of their emotional manipulation. This then leads on to rich ethical dilemmas about how you, the player, will define Victor's values as you learn more about his shady history and troubled relationships.
I'd rather not have anyone sharing my head with me. Can you do something about it?
The really neat thing about Victor's thaumaturgical abilities is they do an admirable double duty between gameplay and narrative. You may gain skill points which can be invested in the game's four emotional facets, which are mind, heart, deed, and word. Though these are linear skill trees and mostly locked behind your progress in the plot, they are novel in granting powerful modifiers to your basic combat abilities, as well as unlocking hidden nuggets of narrative in the world that might inform your deductions. In combat, however, a certain adeptness in traits like mind may be necessary to counteract a particularly strong-willed enemy trait. Likewise, your salutors each have a set of 4 unique skills that provide utility in combat. These range from specialising in healing, to dealing damage over time, or even causing an enemy to become unfocused and vulnerable. It's rather prescriptive as far as turn-based combat goes, and not particularly deep or varied, and it does become repetitive in the final hours. But nonetheless, it is rock solid in its simplicity and execution.
Get off my lawn!
As you run about Warsaw's cobblestoned and muddy streets, you will be locked to the bird's eye view. This is an isometric game. The benefit of this fixed camera is that no single element of this world feels arbitrary or misplaced, and what can be interacted with will serve either the progression of your concurrent plot lines or draw you deeper into the world building by reflecting the effects of your decisions in the many littered notes, posters, and newspapers, as well as conversations that you overhear. Though this is not an immersive sim, and your interactions are signposted to you, but if you are willing to be led by the hand, or follow your natural intrigue, you will be rewarded, whether it be by stroking your fascination with this unique period setting or stumbling onto your next mystery. The thing is, outside of the brief few dozen or so combat encounters that you're likely to come across, the exploration, conversations, and in a big way, reading are going to be the primary drivers of your experience in this game. See, every conversation is cinematically framed and wonderfully, believably written, from every chosen dialogue option to the many handwritten notes and even the mysterious dreams that Victor experiences. The expertise of this writing seeps into every detail of this world. If you approach this game on its own terms, there is absolutely an unforgettable world where turning over every stone feels as though you've traduced your own path and uncovering secrets that empower your version of Victor's story. There is nothing here that's superfluous, and everything that you see or encounter in the Thaumaturge is a wonderful demonstration of this team's philosophy and craft in action that was very much reminiscent of my experience with The Witcher.
Oi! Mietek! This flunky wants to show us his pecker in the bushes.
However, not everything is perfect in the Thaumaturge, and I do need to level a couple of minor criticisms here. See, the third act of the Thaumaturge sped by at a fraction of the time that its excellent preceding portions did. It was crammed with arbitrary fights at every turn that kind of felt like padding. So many of the plot threads that had been building up were just kind of thrown aside or tied off with reckless abandon, and just ended up rocketing towards one of the decent variety of endings that ended up being resolved in things like fades to black or underwhelming slideshows. By the close of the second act, I'd completed every inch of the game that I could find, but I'd barely accrued more than half of the salutors, and I was teased with much more building in my skill trees and gameplay to come. So I went back to try another ending and was shocked to discover that the third act continues just as speedily, shuffling Victor down a narrow corridor and flaunting the powerlessness of my progress so far by greying out entire conversations because I didn't meet arbitrary narrative or skill checks. But the problem is, I wasn't given any way to meet those. So, unfortunately, I hate to suggest that the game has potentially rushed its scope. I have no understanding of its developments, but the endings that I got fell mightily short of the stakes that had led up to them on both the narrative and combat fronts.
The ruiner of good fun and the vanquisher of children's smiles. I'll ask again, who is in charge of this circus?
So, with all that in mind, I kind of love the Thaumaturge, and if you're the kind of person that's going to find this game utterly compelling, you're probably not even going to be able to put this down throughout its 20 hours. See, this tale of industrialization, colliding with culture, and superstition in pre-World War Poland has every confidence in itself and begs for your curiosity as you get to know Victor Szulski and his hunt for emotion-hungry demons. This game is an immediate, though flawed, all-timer, and 100% belongs in the Polish canon of interactive literature for generations to come. Well done, Fool's Theory.